Welcome to X-Men Evolution, episode 46. Target X for Cyclops is waiting for me, an X-Men animated recap podcast. I'm JC, and it's a week.
I'm Rod. I'll agree with that. Hope you're taking care of yourself.
Yep.
And
drink a lot of water.
Yeah, I'm drinking almond milk right now, and
ugh. That's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I'm sorry.
I like almond milk, but if you don't, then whatever is your literal cup of tea. But also, I don't know. I was talking with some friends, like, whether you're disappointed or not this specific week, it's probably more about like figuring out actionable stuff from here on out and doing something. Take some time to process and then move forward. Yeah. That's all I say. Anyway, Cyclops is waiting for me as our weekly podcast series where we're going back and watching every single X-Men animated episode we can find. This podcast started with the original 1992 X-Men the animated series, building up to the release of X-Men 97. Along the way, we've also launched our companion show, the Xavier Files.
That along the way was fantastic. Like, along the way.
It was the friends we met with interviews of members of the X-Men community, including voice actors from the series. And since season 2 of X-Men 97 is not even officially on the slate, even though we know it's coming.
Yeah, it was not in that finale slate for Agatha all along. So
yeah, which side note,
watch it, fucking watch it.
It was such a great show. But also, if you suspect you might not like the show just from like the information that was put out, then maybe it's not for you. I just put it that way.
I will say, I was somebody who was hesitant from it when it was like, it's a musical. It is not a musical.
No, it's not.
There's a song that is present throughout the series, but I don't think if I had ever watched it without somebody saying it's all a musical, I would have ever used that phrasing for it. That was actually like, that was poor promotion for whoever put that out there.
I think I don't even know if Disney ever said it was a musical. I think the rumor came out that there was going to be a musical because they found out the Lopez's wrote a song and they're, Frozen and WandaVision, all that stuff. And then when Patti LuPone got cast, we're like, well, obviously you're not going to cast her and not have her sing a little bit, right? But then it probably also didn't help that the entire cast showed up to D23 or something and did an entire performance.
Did they? I wasn't even aware of that, to be honest.
Yeah. But anyways, great show. I love that by the time you get to like episodes 5, 6, and 7, they already know like, well, you like us or you're into this, so we're gonna lean into all of this. There's no tiptoeing around any details. Like they're just, I don't know, such a great show. Really great. Great wrap up and everything. Anyway, but we're watching X-Men Evolution. We're in the season finale or series finale. Season finale, final season.
Are you having a stroke?
I mean, we talked about it being a week.
I mean, Rod, you usually have the alert on your watch when there's something medically wrong with you. Is it flashing right now? Do I have to call somebody?
My watch is probably like, this is now the baseline, right?
Some quick reminders. We are a recap show about a series that started over 20 years ago. There are going to be spoilers. And if you don't want it spoiled for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, come back. We're not currently sponsored by or affiliated with Marvel Animation, Disney, or Disney Plus in any way.
Speaking of spoilers, because I guess the Evolution's anniversary was just recently.
It was the other day as to when we were recording. Yeah.
And because of that,
24th anniversary.
Some other X-Men like podcasts and stuff were posting things, and I think I saw the final scene of the show. Luckily, the audio wasn't on, so I don't know what was happening, but I was like, oh, that looks like a very like final shot kind of thing.
Was it it wasn't the shot of the entire team lineup, right?
They weren't lined up, but there was a bunch of team members in a space.
That's not the one I see.
They were like walking around and stuff, so I was like, okay, that'll be interesting to see what happens in context. But I get it. It's over 2 decades old now, and
it's on us now.
We follow a lot of X-Men stuff. That being said, still don't spoil it for us in the comments.
After today's recording session, we only have 5 episodes to go. So
yeah, right. Watch it. We get to the very end, and they're like, "Oh, hey, Mephisto dies." Right? Wait, what happened? We're watching the wrong show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Facebook. This is an important thing. there's some things missing from there.
I mean, literally read the next sentence.
Yeah. Given the recent decisions about using content to train their AI, we'll be sunsetting the Twitter account, which is fine with me because like I literally have my personal Twitter account. I have not logged into. What was that, like May or something?
Something like that.
And before that, I had logged into it since the previous October. Of course,
you did a lot of work to try to get back onto Twitter, and then it did not pay off for you. So.
Yeah, I paid them like they said. I post my content that does well on every other platform, and after I paid them, my engagement went down 15%. So, and that was without me posting anything. Anyway, but also make sure to follow us on all your favorite podcast services. We were saying we were trying to be number one on CastBox, but I guess because we're doing video now, we took away like our CastBox listener.
Our one CastBox listener. And I apologize, I don't remember their name off the top of my head, but literally they posted, oh, now that you guys are doing video, I'm going to watch this on YouTube, which is great because YouTube is better for us from like an algorithm perspective and stuff like that. But it was also kind of sad that they were the one person who was on CastBox.
Maybe that's our pipeline. They'll try to attract like the CastBox listeners and be like, hey, there's video now.
Well, speaking of video, I just have to showcase this. So my mom and I have this ongoing thing where she never knows what to buy me for Christmas. Oh, no. And I shot her a message saying, well, you do have a 40-year-old son, so this is an appropriate Christmas gift.
I mean, it is, because I think you have to have 4 decades under your belt to build that thing.
I mean, it's the black box, so it's definitely meant for, like, not a child, right? Yeah. I'm supposed to be at least, like, 11 for this.
And isn't, I think I saw the piece count. It's over 3,000 something, right?
3,000. It's actually listed as 18 and over right there, too.
There you go.
Yeah, and 3,093 pieces. So.
I love 18 plus on a Lego set implies that there's,
fantastic.
There's porn in the bathroom or something.
I mean, Wolverine does have a dresser drawer and stuff like that. So, right. Yeah.
That looks amazing.
I got to figure out how I'm going to build this and if there's any way we're going to integrate the show into it. That is not decided. To be honest, when it went up for sale, I wasn't expecting it to arrive in 3 days. I thought it was like a pre-order scenario and I was going to have time to think about it. But, I mean, there's Gambit. Right. We have Gambit here.
I feel like this is like a series of like shorts, right? Like you pick sections, like however they section off the builds.
That's what the back looks like.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is the Sentinel part of it?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's incredible.
Yeah, there's a Sentinel. Here we go. We have a Sentinel. We got Wolverine. We have an Iceman. We have a Gambit, a Rogue, Cyclops, Jean, Bishop, Storm, Magneto, and then like apparently there's like a ton of like Easter eggs hidden throughout the entire thing. So I got to figure out how we're gonna shoot it.
Like the porn in Wolverine's dresser drawer.
Exactly. Yeah. It did get spoiled for me. There is him, or there's a spot for Wolverine to be holding the infamous picture.
They have to. I'm so glad they worked that in. I was the only criticism I have about the Lego set so far, without it, building it or anything, is the promo they did for it. They recreated the intro.
Yeah,
and you know I'm partial to the song, but also I feel like everybody is because it's such an integral part of that intro.
It's more iconic than any other Marvel song in history. I would argue it's more iconic than the Spider-Man song. So
definitely. And but because I'm guessing Lego, there's some legal thing where they can't license the original song or whatever, so they use like stock music, or maybe some staff composer wrote it. They didn't do a bad job, but it's just so jarring to see that intro and not hear to just kind of hear like random guitar chugs, and then the Bobby of it all kind of makes me. I was talking to my brother about this. Makes me believe that they were starting this set before the '97 stuff was happening. Like they're like, oh, we know we're gonna do X-Men at some point.
Yeah, it is a little weird, and somebody tried to mansplain this to me on Facebook, which was extra funny. It's not under the X-Men 97 banner, although it all works within X-Men 97 context. I now have 3 X-Men 97 Wolverines, and now 2 Cyclopses and 2 Rogues, and technically 2 Storms, but it's a different hairstyle on the Storm.
The minifigs.
Yeah, so
that's fun.
But there's a Bobby, so
yeah. And you showed me the spot you had to clear off to like sacrifice to build this up.
Yeah. As you can see in some of the background, there is Funko in here, and the AAA Luchador Funkos are going to make their way into storage in favor of the mansion. So,
I feel like, are you going to get like some plexi to go over or something? I feel like that thing would get dusty real quick.
I'm hoping that Wicked Brick, who has the one up there that's the plexiglass case, is going to make an X-Men one. Granted, it's going to be almost as expensive as the fucking set, but like it's worth it to not have to dust this damn thing. So
yeah, because I don't collect. I just have stuff. Like I just splurged and got the Spider-Man Lego Advent Calendar this year. Mm-hmm. But after that stuff goes on a shelf, like the colors have changed because of the layers of dust on my Lego things back here. So
yep, understandable. But yeah, had to show that off. Thanks, Mom. Merry Christmas to one and all.
Yeah, Merry Xmas.
So yeah. Oh God damn it, God. You couldn't have waited until the week where we go like live 3 days before Christmas.
I mean, I'll probably wear this then too. I unpacked all my Christmas decorations. John can't see Lucy right now, but she's in her little reindeer hoodie because I don't know. This week I need Christmas to be a little bit early.
Your cat that is simultaneously a demon and a piece of coal. It's perfect. Yeah. All right, so let's get into Target X, which is season 4, episode 3. It aired on September 13th of 2003, and it currently sits at a 7.2 star rating on IMDb. So we knew going into this that there was going to be a second episode that featured X-23. I'm pretty sure it got spoiled right off the bat from the image on Disney Plus for me. So.
Yeah, those thumbnails are kind of funny because we'll talk about next episode, but the next episode, like the twist got spoiled for me because of the thumbnail.
Oh, see, I luckily didn't look at the thumbnail for the next episode. I just clicked next as I watched this one, so that one actually got saved for me. So
nice.
So it kicks off, and you have Wolverine alongside Bobby, Berserker, and Jamie at some weird little like indoor-outdoor cafe. Like, there was something about the design of it where it was like they were inside, but there was no like wall open. I don't know. There was some design to that cafe that I was not feeling. But I do appreciate, even though they're not directly like interacting with the Apocalypse Dome, they're at least referencing it because the newspaper at the beginning does mention the dome. And it's just like, it's baffling scientists. So the X-Men have given up, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's hilarious. They're probably like, well, we tried.
We can't do anything. We'll just wait.
What a wild thing to wait. Because, spoiler, next episode, they don't deal with it either.
Next episode, they don't even address it.
Yeah.
But at least our previous episode with the Brotherhood, it was on the front of a newspaper. This one, it's on front of a newspaper. And then the news cycle, they stopped caring.
Yeah,
so. Yep. But they mentioned that they are not excited for their first day of class because Scott and Jean are basically being upgraded to being instructors for the team.
I agree. That's a bad decision.
Yeah.
Like, if you spent the previous semester as like students together, them being upgraded to your teachers, like what, a couple months later, this is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's kind of like having the person who is like a senior teach, the freshman the following year. Like, what is it? Like, your TA in college might be like a year older than you or something like that.
Yeah. But even a TA is a little bit more understandable. These sound like they're actual instructors.
Yes.
Like for the course, like I don't know how that would ever go.
And it sounds like they also got to pick their own course because it was like them nerding out about physics and how it relates to mutant powers.
Yeah.
And you had kids who actually wanted Logan to be their teacher. Whereas in, I want to say a previous season, they were like, oh, no, Logan is like the taskmaster. We don't want to deal with this. They're like, they're that concerned about Scott and Jean being boring that they're like, no, we want you.
Yeah, we'd rather almost die.
Yeah. And Logan's like, nah, you got to just get used to it. He starts to walk over to his bike, smells something, and then we see him in like an infrared scenario. And I believe that's the first time on Evolution we've actually seen the adamantium skeleton. It looked more hard angle and rigid than the smooth version that we saw in X-Men 92.
Yeah. Actually, my note here, because it happened so fast, I was like, is the Predator watching him? And then it flashed over, it's like, is that Doctor Doom? I know it's not, but like, what the heck?
So I will get into that. But I was also like, who is that supposed to be? Because the color threw me off on it. Like, cause it, it's like, it's obviously green, so it totally alludes to somebody like a Doom. But I'm like, well, obviously Doom isn't interfering with X-Men stuff in that kind of a capacity. Like, he doesn't need to be sneaky. He's Doom. He's big and bombastic and boisterous, Yeah,
not sneaking around a rooftop for Logan of all them,
Yeah. He goes into this alleyway. There's the very stereotypical moment that you see in cartoons of there's garbage shaking and a rat pops out. And then tentacles burst through the wall and he gets like the little brain buzzer on his forehead. And that's where he gets pulled inside. I don't know why I did not realize who it was at the beginning. In hindsight, I feel ashamed that I didn't instantly figure that out.
I mean, maybe it's because I don't know if you subliminally thought Doom too. Because
I definitely didn't think Doom.
Because I had that weird. Well, I didn't necessarily think it was Doom, but his name had flashed in my head. Mm-hmm. So when the tentacles came out, my note says like, "Oh, it's Doc Ock."
They were animated like it was either Doc Ock or the Magneto bubbles that had tentacles thing, but it definitely didn't read as Omega Red to me.
So I was still like, oh, that's still random, though. But let's go.
Yeah. So that's where we cut to the animated intro. Coming back, Scott is walking into the classroom. He knows that the New Mutants are not looking forward to it, and Jean is hopelessly optimistic. The room is just in pure chaos. And then Cannonball literally assaults Scott. Like, he just bounces through and knocks Scott on his ass.
And, I will say this, like, Scott didn't try, like, sitting in a backwards chair. Because that was the thing you would do at that time period.
You thought he was going to do the Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah. They have Coolio in the background.
It's still pretty relevant a reference for that time. I mean, it's about 6 years later, but again, we've always said, you make a reference to something a few years prior whenever you're doing like animation and cartoons and stuff.
And also for me, I talk, especially people know me and like the music stuff I do. Like, I feel like decades are shifted to mid decades. So like when I think about 90s, I think most people actually think about stuff from 95 to 2005.
Yes.
And otherwise like 80s is a lot of like 85 to like 94 ish and stuff, so
80s in particular is always weird because we have like the neon glam rock version of the 80s. That is not what the vast majority of the 80s was. That's like a year of the 80s, but that's the one that gets turned into Halloween costumes and such.
Yeah, because that's also what was in movie. Like when we were watching shows at the time, that's how they on Saved by the Bell, they portrayed everything with the bright neon colors and stuff. But then like at home, everything was that brown wood, the tree upholstery and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the teak style walls and all that kind of stuff. Or the bamboo chairs that everybody had. Like, we literally had a teacher that had one of those chairs in the classroom.
Yeah.
That was weird. Catholic school was a thing. Jumping over, Logan wakes up. He's chained, like, neck down against a floor. Of course, he's, not chained well because he's able to cut himself out and then hacks a hole into it. And I was not expecting him to be in the air.
I know. I thought he was in a basement dungeon or something, right? Like a shield facility or something.
Right. Yeah, some secret facility, but it was kind of like a Spruce Goose style plane. Yeah. Like, I don't know what that actual plane is called, but that thing seems bigger than it should be to take off, and I think that was the actual problem with the Spruce Goose, right?
Oh, really? I don't know. That makes sense.
All I know, that's the hangar at the YouTube
the Google offices are. Yeah, but, like it was definitely a plane that was a carrier for other planes. That's how big it is.
Or at least for tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, other vehicles.
Yeah. You see a zoom out, and it's revealed like there's a Hydra logo on the back of this thing, and these Hydra guards just shoot Logan out of the plane.
Which on hindsight makes sense. At the time I was like, why did they do that?
Yeah. If you were able to trap him here, why'd you let him go? But then of course we find out that this is one big trap, obviously. I do love that he hits every single branch on the way down, because they have to justify why he doesn't like liquefy and have to reform.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the logic, is like he's still going to survive regardless, but in a comic version of Logan, if he falls from a plane, like everything's got to be goo except for like a few things that are held together, you know.
I'm sure this isn't the first time it's happened, but I feel like the scene where Homer Simpson falls down the gorge and hits everything, ever since that happened in like the early 90s, I feel like I noticed it, or it happened a lot more. It's almost like that hit so right that after that, whenever there was like a hero falling somewhere, if there was like a place they could like pinball off of, they would just like do it.
Rod, I think we know what one of the reels for this week needs to be.
It's just Homer on the stretcher.
Literally with Logan hitting stuff and ping-ponging down the entire way.
You know what's funny? In the I think the most recent season of The Simpsons, because I'm one of the few that still enjoy watching it.
Yes, you are.
They actually I forget if it was a Halloween episode or not. It's a non-timeline one where they reference back to that episode and reveal that Homer actually died then.
Okay.
Like they're kind of like playing towards like the internet like theories that Homer went to a coma and that's what we're seeing and stuff. So they show like him fall like we normally saw him fall, but then at the end I think the stretcher like decapitates him or like smashes in his head or something like that. I was like,
was it Treehouse of Horror for it to like decapitate him?
I don't think it was some other like horror. I forget what it was.
Okay.
Because I didn't see a Treehouse of Horror this year. They might be putting it later. Simpsons do this weird thing every once in a while. They put
Treehouse of Horror would technically be roughly this week if it was okay.
Yeah, sometimes they do it like closer to Thanksgiving or like I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why they don't just time it. Like they know it's going to probably be in the fall, so make it like the second episode of the season. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it was some non-canon episode where they reference back to it. Like so even they know that this thing was iconic and like influenced so much TV after that.
See, I thought you were going to mention, like, for some reason, I don't know why on my feed lately, there has been lots of references to Maude Flanders being hit with the t-shirt cannon.
Oh.
Like, for some reason, there's been an influx of that over the past 3 weeks. I don't know what happened. I didn't click on anything that is outside of my normal browsing. But that, and I literally saw somebody had a Halloween costume that they had all the things that she was holding flying in the air that were held up with like wire frames and stuff. It's like, fun. Yeah, I'll never find it again, but it was cool.
There must be like a joke or a meme that's going around that we're not aware of. I haven't seen that, but like that's funny because that was her last appearance on the show because they wrote the character off after that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, she literally died.
Yeah. Well, like a lot of people die and they bring like Dr. Nick died and then they never explain why, but he's just back.
Right. But yeah, so Wolverine hits everything on the way down, off of a cliffside, ends up in this river, and then you see a helicopter overhead, and that's where we get the reveal of the episode's two villains, Omega Red, who we have referenced before, and then did you know who this was?
No, my note says Omega Red and somebody who's not Doctor Doom are tracking him.
So, that character literally only exists in X-Men Evolution, so I was not expecting you to know who it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's funny, because I was going to say, like, what if he was from the comics, they recycled a lot, because he has the green hood and cape, you know, but it wasn't. I know enough about Doom that wasn't who, or if he was a really bad one. But, really close. I
was also wondering, like, was it a variation of Strucker? Because Strucker was known for being a Hydra agent. The green was off, but he also is like known for having like the eyepiece and stuff like that. But everything I was able to find is this was just this guy named Gauntlet, and he's here for this show, and that's it.
And they only say his name once, right?
Yeah, they say his name once, and the episode doesn't really reveal what his fate was. There is in the comics another character named Gauntlet who has no connection to him. In the was it post House of M or post Civil War era? I can't remember the specifics because it was like 2007 era. One of the instructors for the Avengers Initiative is a character named Gauntlet, but they also have this like big hand piece which lends itself to the name Gauntlet.
It's also like a very like common word,
especially within Marvel.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the Omega Red design?
Not my favorite, but it fit the rest of the show. He seemed really human.
The giant, like, apocalypse underbite felt weird to me.
That was weird. That felt kind of in line with, like, a lot of the other, like, like villain specialty designs and stuff. But I think the thing that threw me off the most was his eyes. Like I'm used to them being whited out or some weird color or something, and they were just
or like a yellow or something.
Yeah, he just had regular pupils and stuff. So he just seemed like a guy with tentacles in this, and I'm just used to him being like this, like foreboding
powerhouse.
Like weapon that is like weapon that had a little bit of humanity added to him instead of the other way around. This one, he just seemed like a guy that was like really tough, but also not that tough because like he got taken down a lot.
He did. You were factually correct about that. Wolverine pulls himself out of the river. You could tell that he's badly hurt. Gauntlet catches him on his infrared again. They start shooting at him. There's a chase. And then Logan crawls into a log. And I just love the moment where like the little tentacles like sneaking around. And they didn't do what you expect, where it's like, oh, he's going to get away. It's like, nope, rips him out of the log just like by his leg and starts like fucking around with him and stuff.
Which now, once again, in hindsight, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Because I was like, well, I know it was a long shot to hide in a log, but like, he got him right away. It's like, okay, they knew where he was.
Right. As he grabs him, he ends up specifically calling him Weapon X, and I appreciated that just from the fact of like they're still showcasing the history between these two characters regardless of which versions they are and stuff like that, and we get a little more of it later, which we'll get into, but I do like that he doesn't call him Wolverine, he doesn't call him Logan, he is Weapon X.
And Wolverine doesn't have any recollection of him. He's like, who are you, why, like, what are you talking about?
And Omega Red specifies in particular like he's been waiting a long time for this too. And then he says, something along the lines of like, this time I'm leaving you broken. This time you're going to suffer. But that gets interrupted when X-23 jumps out and cuts right through Omega Red's tentacle.
That's pretty satisfying.
It's satisfying, but it also goes to your point of this Omega Red is not as strong as what we're used to seeing, because usually Omega Red's tentacles are one of the things that Logan can't cut through.
I was going to say, I couldn't remember if his tentacles were adamantium as well. Or just something.
I think they're carbonanium or carbonium or something. It's a metal that I'm fucking up how to say, but it's on like that tier of adamantium, vibranium style of stuff. Gotcha. Like that it is stronger. It's not steel. Yeah. So she comes through, starts kicking ass, basically yells at Wolverine to go away.
I was surprised. I think that was supposed to be the surprise, though, right? Because you're like, oh, she came to save him. He's like, well, only incidentally. She wants him out of the way.
Exactly. That is where we get the name drop that he is named Gauntlet. He calls Hydra Command, and he specifies that the target is on their way, meaning X-23. So that's the first time we get the illusion of, oh, this was planted, that Logan was not going to... Logan was never who they were after. Yeah,
and was that around the time, I think, when they name-dropped Gauntlet, X-23 found the tracker on the bottom of Logan's foot?
In a little bit,
she was like, that's how they were tracking you. So that makes, like, the tentacle makes sense and all that stuff. Is like, wow, they went right to the spot.
Yeah, so it comes back from commercial. She is still pissed at him, just wants him to leave. She kind of makes, like, a little bit of, like, a shady comment about him not healing fast enough.
That didn't really come back the way I thought it would. I thought it was going to imply that they were in some sort of like Savage Land thing or something, like something where he was impaired or they injected him with something. No, he just fell down a lot of trees. He Homer Simpson down the tree line and he's old.
I didn't know if it was supposed to be just the fact that they're, especially what we learn later on, that she's just better and quicker and healthier. Or, even did they do something when he got abducted that they messed with his power kind of scenario?
Yes, that's what I thought, but they never really come back to that in this episode, at least. And if they do, it's not for at least 2 episodes.
Yeah. And then that's where we reveal that Gauntlet is able to track him. Wolverine is kind of upset. He's like, well, why'd you leave the Institute? I could have protected you. And she's like, you can't protect shit. Like, she just literally comes back at him. She is so unhappy with him being here. And like, now we're finally getting a decent amount of dialogue from her. I know I mentioned it in another episode, without seeing it, the voice actor, I couldn't tell that this was a different voice actor for her.
Oh, I didn't even catch on to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a different voice actor between the two different episodes. So,
oh, good job. Yeah, she had a good point though. Like, she was able to like at least fight enough to get away from Omega Red and Gauntlet, where like he was gonna get scooped up.
Yeah. She reveals, she's like, yeah, I mean, Hydra's after me and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s after me. They both want me as their weapon, and that's where she spots that he has the tracker on his boot.
So I feel like when she name dropped S.H.I.E.L.D., I was like, oh, so we're going to get a Fury cameo.
The tracking continues, and Omega Red is like definitely in this for personal reasons. And Gauntlet, to an extent, feels a little bit like Taskmaster to me. Obviously not the version from Black Widow, who doesn't talk. But the traditional version of Taskmaster of like, I like my job. This is fun. I get to hunt people down. Like he has a little bit of that like cocky, snide aspect to him that I was like, yeah, I don't know if that was intentionally meant to be like a Taskmaster and they just didn't have the rights to him, but that's kind of how he felt like he was written for me. Back at the school, the New Mutants are not paying attention. Jean is pissed, and it kind of went exactly how I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, the kids like wreak havoc until they just leave. Although it was funny, they paused on Bobby long enough that I was like, oh, he's not there.
He's too behaved.
And he's also not moving at all. Everything else is like animated in that sequence, and he's just like looking straight forward, not even breathing.
No. I just love like even like Amara is like, oh yeah, I need a paper, and then literally lights it on fire the second Scott gets to her. Like, just the ultimate level of disrespect in that room.
Yeah, it's hard to remember being that young, but like, I get it. Like, yeah, this was your classmate, like we said a couple months ago. Yeah, you're like, oh, you think you're hot shit now? It's like when you're at work, like if you're, especially in retail. When I was in high school working like a retail job, and like your peer gets promoted to be like your boss or something, it's just like chaos after that, because you go from like being lunch mates to like, well, now they can write you up.
Take that, amplify it times 20 when you're working at bars and nightclubs, and the person who was on the bar next to you one week becomes the bar manager the next week.
Oh, damn.
And you're like, oh, I literally was ripping shots of Jack Daniels with you 1 week prior.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say gets off shift and then just gets on the other side of the bar and gets hammered and you have to kick him out.
I mean, that too.
Yeah.
There are definitely times I had to close when I was a bartender for the manager who was near blackout drunk. So
that was funny.
Yeah. Back in the woods, Wolverine, it seems like he's pretty healed up. There's a rustle in the bushes. Omega Red grabs something. You knew what that was, right?
That's an actual Wolverine, right?
That is an actual
Wolverine.
I
thought it happened so fast. I was like, they had to have made that joke. Like, I think the show was made by actual dads, so they made dad jokes on it.
Yeah. I do love that as Gauntlet like kind of like walks away and is like giving an update or something like that, you have the sound effect in the background of the Wolverine like still kind of fucking up Omega Red. Like he was not having an easy time with it.
I love little sound effect things like that, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for an unrelated movie, but enough that I hope you go see it. There's a movie called The Wild Robot, and it's about a robot becoming a parent. Really sentimental.
It's the robot mom, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But the funniest part is the cast is amazing. Catherine O'Hara is Mother Possum, and possums have like a lot of babies, so she has like 7.
I've seen that joke.
That scene. So like I was in the theater with a bunch of like parents and their kids, and then there's a scene where the Catherine O'Hara is explaining to the robot like, yeah, no one take this. No one knows what they're doing as a mother. Take that from a mother of 7. Then you hear a scream in the background. She's like, mother of 6. And like every parent because it just happens so nonchalantly, but that whole movie is full of jokes. Like it is very sentimental, but then they punctuate it with like jokes like that. There's like kids are probably like that was odd, but then like the parents are like, oh my god, this is so dark.
I've seen nothing about that movie except for that scene, and I sent that to 2 friends, and my response is, I laughed too much to ever become a parent.
Yeah, well, I think the parents laugh too because they're like, well, because the whole thing about that movie is they're in the forest, and so there's this like circle of life happening, And so death is tragic, but like they have to move on. They have to move on from it, otherwise they just don't survive. So like the mom is just kind of like, "Yep, mother is 6 now," which makes me think like, did she start with like 12?
Yeah,
on the way over to this conversation.
She had 12 yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep. At that point, I literally just wrote down, why is he called Gauntlet? Like, I still can't figure out why his name is Gauntlet.
I guess he can put you through trials or something. Like, not
let's
the
go with
gauntlet,
that.
but like the gauntlet of I don't know.
Yeah. Because he walks over, he gets eyes on Wolverine in the distance, and Wolverine keeps, going with X-23. And it's like, kid, they're pushing us towards a trap. She does not like being called kid. Which is just kind of funny because if you know Wolverine, that's what he tends to call a lot of the younger characters. Yeah. It's just kind of his standard. Maybe it didn't happen in Pride of the X-Men because he was kind of just a giant asshole to Kitty in that episode.
He was also like Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, but they could still say kid.
Yeah. Well, he did say she's just a stupid kid. I remember that. Now that you say it's like she's just a stinking kid, but that was actually like it had a whiff.
Derogatory.
I was like a whiff of a slur. Like, the energy of it.
And then X-23 said something that sounded darker than I was expecting from the entirety of this show, where she's like, they're going to just keep hunting me until I'm no longer alive, which it's great writing. Yeah. But I was like, holy shit, that's like legit dark as shit.
I thought, I was like, so is the next scene her just jumping off a cliff or something? Or like what? Like, because she implied that she just needed to end her life to not have to run anymore. I was like, what the?
Yeah. Well, then we do start to get, hints that this is kind of potentially a suicide mission for her too. Logan's still trying to bond with her and be like, I've gone through stuff like this too. I just don't have all the memories. And she's straight up, I would love it if they took my memories away. That would actually be a blessing for me. Right.
She wants the eternal sunshine that.
Mm-hmm. They end up getting like into this rock outcropping, and then it says
this when Logan's like, does this look like a trap to anybody else? And she's like, sorry, you were right. I just remember that being such like a Full House moment. She's like, sorry. It was like, God damn it. This is why teenagers should never leave.
I have something about gets cocky. Oh, guns cocking. That's what it says.
Same thing.
Yes. Hydra guns cocking. You see Gauntlet has missed some shots. And then you see what the Hydra troopers look like. They are straight up Darth Vader helmets, right? That wasn't even subtle. That literally was just like, it was half Spaceballs, half Hydra.
I'll take Spaceballs. I think that's funny because they're literally that's funny because you know how like at that time period especially they couldn't show anybody die, so that's why the Foot Soldiers and Ninja Turtles were robots and stuff. Like these were implied to be humans, but
because you saw their hands.
Yeah, and they didn't
like their hands had no gloves on them, which was the weirdest thing.
But they gave them this like form factor of a robot, and I think that might have been like, let's see if we can slide this, covertly under like standards and practices, like because it's not a big deal. Like I don't think any kid's gonna like mourn the loss of these like goons,
I mean, kids are pretty awful. Right. I don't think they were. They could have ripped a person in half, and kids would have been cheering. So, I mean, I would have been cheering. Gauntlet ends up shooting this like sound blast that ends up dropping both of them. Cut to commercial again.
I don't know what that is. Was that just a MacGuffin where they're like, we need something to stop them? Because I wasn't used to like Sonic Blast taking down like Wolverine type characters. That was like
I'd imagine it's probably like, what's the thing you could do to take down Wolverine that doesn't result in like blood, and essentially hitting them with something that's so blast them with sound. Like what was the one in '92? He basically did the screaming thing and like it gave him vertigo and it took down Logan.
I guess maybe.
So I think this was the gun version of that one from the Nasty Boys. It wasn't Gorgeous George because Gorgeous George was the guy made of tar.
Oh yeah, I can't remember their names either. I know what you're talking about.
Shit. Well, that's gonna bother me, Rod. I'm sure somebody's.
Were they? They're not the Acolytes. What were they called?
Nasty Boys.
You just said that.
Yep.
Let's see what happens when I type in Nasty Boys in Google. Oh, it's Janet Jackson. Okay. It's better.
Definitely say X-Men, because you also are going to get the results of the WWE Nasty Boys.
That was the first like autofill.
WWF.
Yeah, see, Ruckus?
Yep.
There you go. I was like looking back through the names, like, it's not going to be Hairball.
It's not Hairbag.
Yeah, Hairbag, sorry. Hairbag, not Slab. Yep.
Nope, Slab was the one that looked like an ogre.
Yeah, Ruckus had the real 80s jacket and the pink hair, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, coming back from commercial, there's like a weird UFO thing that's flying through the air. That also, I think that this team is like, how many Star Wars references could we get in there? Because it also looked like if you took the probe droid from The Empire Strikes Back, the droid at the beginning, and just like flattened it like a pancake, but kept its weird legs.
That's funny. Yeah, I didn't even notice. I wonder if they switched like something like storyboards and stuff, because I haven't seen a lot of like the Craft, like Buffy references lately. But now that you mention it, there are more like sci-fi things in here.
I think the Buffy, Craft, Empire Records stuff came from like the team like Stephen E. Gordon.
Yeah.
And I think because this is at least half a team transition over, that was probably just, people putting their own like spin on the world. So, yeah. And they land, and it has a cool like landing pattern too. Like I don't think I had ever seen that before. It reminded me of the G.I. Joe Cobra base toy that used to exist back in the day, because it was like this giant like circular thing, but then also the legs of the ship kind of like went down. And I don't know what function that has, but it was a cool design.
Yeah, it looked like it kind of like latched into the base.
Yeah, it had grooves in the base to like match up with its legs.
Yeah.
And again, there's no way that is functionally useful.
I just on my music TikTok, I posted about the song Wild Wild West by Will Smith today, and someone mentioned like, oh yeah, the guy that made that movie had a fetish for spiders. I was like, I didn't know that, or even if that's true, but if it is, that
it makes a lot of sense.
That tracks. Yeah. And maybe they had something to do with this.
Yep. Then we see the arrival of a character. Did you know who that was?
Who's
green-haired woman.
Only because they were in Hydra. I was like, so this is Madam Hydra, right? I don't know if I've actually ever seen her before. I mean, if I've seen her, I didn't remember her. But I was like, well, they're going to Hydra, and a powerful woman just walked out of an elevator with like focus on her. I was like, so this is probably Madam Hydra. So
there's the name Madam Hydra, which is a title. You have Supreme Hydra, which is a title. But she in particular is Viper.
Okay, I didn't know that.
That would be her name when she was not the lead of Hydra, basically.
Gotcha. So, okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of her at all then.
Yeah, because in Marvel Snap, which I know I reference often on this show, the card that she is on is a Viper card as opposed to a Madam Hydra card.
Gotcha. So, I mean, granted, from like what I hear, I think like a lot of people are playing that game. Sounds like if I had the aptitude for it, I'd be playing it too.
They also released the Pokemon card game, which is just a like 3-minute version of the regular Pokemon card game, but it is not special. It's just literally like, here's a short version of it.
Oh, that's fun.
But Marvel Snap, if you want to sponsor our podcast, we will take money.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yep. Weirdly enough, Logan is like stuck to a chair, but he's in uniform now instead of his civilian clothes. Like they swapped him into his spandex.
In Omega, he wanted to see him in that outfit.
Right. And Logan is obviously like, oh, leave the kid alone, stuff like that. And they claim that X-23 has actually been hunting them, alluding to what we've been talking about of it being a suicide mission. She's just been like tracking them down. She's been evading the traps until now, and basically say like, if her looking out for you is what fucked her over on this. Mm-hmm. So,
and they finally they would get her.
Mm-hmm. And that they're excited to mind wipe her, which again, X-23 literally was kind of excited about that as a prospect earlier, but they just want to make her the perfect weapon. And Madam Hydra's like, yeah, you're the old model. You're literally last year's model, I think she says. And and Omega Red gets to keep Wolverine as a part of their agreement and just walks out the room.
Mm-hmm. And then I had it here, like, this is one we were talking about Omega Red being, like, nerfed in this. My only note about this section is, like, it's just basically Omega Red yelling at him, and then the only move he actually makes frees Logan. Like, you could tell it wasn't on purpose, but that was the singular thing that he did.
Yeah,
He didn't even get really to hurt him. He just kind of, like, knocked him around enough that he got freed.
So right before that happens, there's a quick interlude with the Doctor. Who makes a quick comment that the disc that is on X-23's head is going to interfere with the mind wipe.
Yeah.
That's when we jump back, and there's kind of more of like the gum flapping between Wolverine and Omega Red, and they dropped a few names in there. Obviously, we know from X-Men 92 even, you had Maverick gets referenced, Sabretooth gets referenced, and then did you recognize the last name of the three that Omega Red drops?
I can't remember what it was.
Wraith.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
Which is most well known solely because Will.i.am played Wraith in the original Wolverine Origins movie.
Yeah, I just watched that breakdown before Wolverine and Deadpool. I didn't know that was his name. That's so funny. What a random cameo.
But guess what Wraith's, one of his aliases is. Not his real name, because his real name is like TBD. But it's one of those scenarios where I'm just like, yeah, I was meant to be an X-Men fan.
Rafe is I don't know.
His alias is John Carlyle.
That's hilarious. There you go.
Yeah. That is the closest connection I will ever have to Will.i.am, basically.
I was going to say, that needs to be a bar story for, like, guess the 3 degrees of separation from John Carl and Will.i.am.
Also, we're both connected to Vernon from Hot Pepper Gaming. At one point, Will.i.am did some work with him, and I've suffered through an episode of Hot Pepper Gaming long before Hot Ones was a thing. So
I have a friend that was produced by Will.i.am, but I don't know if the project's out, so I won't name them in case it's still under wraps.
Just to not break NDAs. Yeah. And then, to your point, he eggs him on. It ends up freeing Wolverine because he knocks him into a control panel. And then it's not a full knockout, but he's able to get Omega Red off his feet by sweeping the leg.
It's the go-to, right? As a Mortal Kombat, the Mortal Kombat machine back here, as a Mortal Kombat head, that's the move. You keep leg sweeping until they give up.
Oh, God. Remember when we thought that was like a legit strategy?
I mean, it kind of is. I don't know. Did you see the most recent Mortal Kombat movie?
No, I have not watched that yet. I'm sure I will at some point.
It's fun. So. Like, I love it as a Mortal Kombat fan. I would not fault you for like not liking it because I always say this: to do Mortal Kombat the movie right, you have to either have Endgame level budget or just go camp. They went camp, but they make a joke in it because like Luke, like they're doing a training sequence and Liu Kang keeps like sweeping whoever he's fighting, and they're like, "Come on, you can't keep doing that. That's cheating." I was like, "Oh, that was a good one."
Okay, that I would actually like. You get the reveal from the Doctor that Gauntlet did not, in fact, actually use the disc, and there's like a weird moment of confusion, and then alarms start going off. So in my mind, X-23 is killing people off camera. People are getting stabbed and like kicked in the dick with her blade and stuff like that.
Like, I'm not trying to say that the writing on the show has been bad or anything like that, but when they made that reveal, like, I didn't put you. What do you mean you didn't put the disc on? I was like, oh wow, this is like another level of writing for this type of show.
It elevated certain aspects that we haven't seen in all episodes. I would agree with that.
That was a nice little like surprise. Like, it's not the most clever twist I've ever heard, but in the context of a show like this, like it did catch me off guard. That was really fun.
Logan catches up with X-23 and finally figures out that she wanted to be captured during all this. You get a Wolverine and Omega Red battle again, which doesn't really work that well for Omega Red. And X-23 is like, you don't have much time. You got to get out of here. And then starts throwing bombs.
Yeah. Like those like old ones you only see in spy movies that have like the...
Yeah, the sticky bombs from GoldenEye, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like everywhere. Like too many. Like you don't need 3 of them right in one cluster. Like spread them out.
Madam Hydra is completely panicked at that point.
I mean, she's
And
doing
she's like,
what I would.
I got to get the fuck out of
I was
here.
gonna say she did what I would have done. Be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go on that escape pod that's like could fit 100 people, but only room for me.
Wolverine is able to electrocute Omega Red, and that's when evacuation alarms start going off. And they didn't do the normal cartoon thing of like, oh, there's bombs here, you guys got to evacuate, and there's like 5 minutes of evacuation. It was like 7 seconds later that bombs started exploding.
Yeah, like every like even the exterior shot, they just show like everything like starting to collapse and stuff.
Yeah. You start seeing explosions. Madam Hydra gets to her ship, and as that is taking off, and I think that's probably just like, you know, why they used the design they did is because it gave X-23. I still want to call her Laura, even though they don't name her Laura in the show. I'm so used to her being Laura in the comics. It's weird for me to not say that.
Yeah.
Or Wolverine, because now she's just Wolverine. She's not X-23 anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when the two of them are in a room together at the same time, awkward.
Yeah.
But, you know, she grabs on to this ladder. He jumps off, gets to it, and she literally kicks him off the ladder and sends him back down to the ground.
That was another like a little subversion I like, because like in other shows we would have just seen him like get up there, have the heart-to-heart talk with her, you know, and stuff. But no, he's just yeeted off.
Yeah. She gets to the control room. Madam Hydra is in full-fledged, like, shit-heel panic mode at that point. And it's like, it's bargaining. Like, you know, you could always tell when the villain is fucked because they're bargaining. And Gauntlet comes in, and she's like, yeah, none of you are getting off this thing.
Yeah.
And just proceeds to throw the bombs around the entire control room to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then explosions happen, and there's a massive crash on it. We do get a quick moment where there's like the raised eyebrow, though, right as like all that is going off.
Oh, from Laura.
Now you're doing it.
Yeah. X-23.
Yeah. Yep. Back down on the ground, you see S.H.I.E.L.D. has captured Omega Red. Wolverine is at the crash site, and that's where you get that Fury cameo. And Wolverine gives the, you know, she didn't make it. And then because motherfucker has the best sense of smell on the planet, you could tell he smells something in the distance. The wind was blowing the right way. It wasn't Sabretooth, and he gives a smile. And then she's just like bouncing off of rocks like a wild animal.
Yeah, and you could they implied that she could tell that he could tell that she was there, and then like leapt off. Now, at this point, I'm less surprised of the magnitude of his sense of smell and more impressed with, like, his separation. Because I'm trying to think of, like, when I'm in when I walk into, like, any place with, like, candles or something, I can't tell one of them from the other. It's just, like, this, like, wall of overstimulation. So I don't know if everybody's like that, but, like, I can't imagine, like, there's explosions with how many different types of fuels and the forests and all these people around. And he's like, oh, yeah, that one... her like
Yep. And then the episode wraps up with Wolverine coming back to the school and seeing that Scott and Jean have gotten through to the kids by telepathically holding them up in the air and showing how to reflect their optic blasts off of stuff.
Yeah. That reminds me of
and that was the Full House moment.
Yeah, because in the first scene when it happened earlier in the episode, there was a thing. Was it Jamie Multiple made? Of like, I don't even know what physics means. They're like, come on, kid.
Yes, that was definitely Jamie.
And then in this end, I was like, you know what? I actually don't know what they mean either by that, because they're talking about superheroes and physics. But then in this scene, when he does like the ricochet of I was like, oh, they're talking about like geometry, kind of like.
That's the thing. It was geometry. That was not physics.
So I was like, so they did like the mutant equivalent of like turning the chair around. And like, listen, you could use this in the streets. Like, okay.
Yeah. And then there's like proud Papa Wolverine from the door being like, those are my kids.
Yeah. Or if it were me, it'd been like, I have one less job.
Thank God.
Because there's only been 2 teachers for like 20 kids for the last year.
They had 3. They had 3.
Oh, yeah.
You had Beast, Storm, and Logan.
Yeah, but someone's always missing, right? I don't know if I've ever.
Oh yeah, they're never there at the same time. Yeah, totally. No, they're not a good staff. Yeah. I'm just pointing out there's 3 of them.
Yeah, because we don't. I don't think we saw.
Yeah.
Do we see? I don't think we saw Beast in this episode.
Not in this episode.
Or Storm.
No. Or Rogue.
Yeah. Yeah, Rogue. I think we're just always assuming she's sulking in her room.
I mean, she did just kill her mom, so.
Yeah. To be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the episode wrapped up. The only things I was able to find from like an Easter egg perspective were that it was a Wolverine, which you had gotten. Yeah. Gauntlet does not exist anywhere else. Also, it's implied that he and Madam Hydra are dead.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because they don't show them captured from the rubble or anything.
Yeah. All right.
So, X-23 killed people. Good for her. Proud of her. Maybe that's why she doesn't appear in any additional episodes.
There you go. Yeah, and all the Hydra agents, right? That were like kind of like robot coded, but clearly humans.
Yeah, there's definitely a handful of them that never escaped that building as it was blowing up. And then the fact that Wraith's alias is John Carlyle. That's my highlight. Yeah. So
next Halloween.
No, I am not. No, I am. So there's that awkward moment at Halloween where you're like, you have to explain a joke costume to people. Uh-huh. That's the one where you explain the joke and people just go, okay.
Yeah.
And then just walk away.
I had that. I was at my last Halloween party of the year this year. I was like, oh man, it's a house party and I'm tired because this thing didn't start till like fucking 9 p.m., which fine. I'm just the old one. But
you were so old.
But I was like,
when you say it like that,
I was like, I just want to be comfortable. So I have a Stitch onesie. So I'm like, fine, I'm going to Stitch. And then as I was leaving, I saw the night I saw you and the rest of our friends, I was wearing the Loki variant jacket. And that was still like on the front. I just thrown it down on the ground. I was like, oh, that would be funny. So I put the variant jacket on with the Stitch onesie. And I walked in the room and was like, I was kind of proud of myself because like it was mainly like film people. And they were like, oh, Stitch with a brown jacket. I was like, it says variant. Like, so a variant Stitch. And they're like, yeah, you know, like, they're like, oh, variant 626. I was like, wow, that was like, I don't know if that's on you or me. Like, because you said it, but it just didn't connect it.
Well, I mean, it's 616, not 626.
It's not, it's 616? I thought 626. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Man, Stitches, I thought.
No. 616 is Marvel. Like Marvel. Oh.
No, I was talking about Stitches variant 626. So I thought it was funny that like there was a bunch of Stitches, and then I did anyway. But anyway, that was me this Halloween.
Well, Rod, we only have 6 more episodes left of this season to go.
Yeah, and this year.
Yeah, 6 more episodes for us and 6 more episodes for Evolution. Can't wait for that cliffhanger. Thank you guys for joining us. And if you like what you heard, we'd appreciate a rating on the podcast app of your choosing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts. Please fill in for that one person who left us on CastBox. And if you have any thoughts, please make sure to drop them into the comments for either the YouTube upload, official Instagram of this episode. I think now I actually need to start our Blue Sky account.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I mean, you're not going to, like, repost whenever I post it because you don't pay attention to that anymore. Rod's too cool with his music podcast, so...
No, I have a Blue Sky account, but I haven't logged into that in forever either. There's too many things to keep track.
It's true. And we're old.
Yeah.